So here's a photograph of one of my vehicles from the past, guys. Back in the day, I used to have a little Ford Ranger. It was a 4-cylinder model, 5-speed manual transmission. I don't think you could get it any more stripped down. It was basically like a fleet vehicle. It was so simple. No even carpets, rubber mats. There was a couple of things that were actually quite unique about this particular little vehicle that I recall, and I remember they struck me as daring from an engineering standpoint in one regard. The front end was quite unique in the vehicle. It had like a crossover dual I-beam arrangement that was pretty unique. I'm not sure too many vehicles use that configuration. Look it up if you're interested. Know really what this video is about, nor is the fact that it was actually equipped with OBD2 diagnostic facility in 1995. If I'm not mistaken, 96 is when they mandated it in North America anyway, if I'm not mistaken. But the reason you're looking at this photograph is if you look at the, you're looking at the cylinder head, of course. If you look at the lower portion of the photograph, you'll see there's some detail with respect to the combustion chamber there. So it has 2 valves per cylinder, of course. It was extremely anemic, this engine. I mean, it was underpowered to a ridiculous degree. I remember comparing it. At the time, I was looking at small trucks, and I compared it to the Dodge Dakota, and it was just, there was no comparison. There was a big difference in price, but power was unbelievably different. That was a V6, really powerful, completely different vehicle. But this engine was so anemic that Ford tried virtually every trick in the book to try and cope with this. So if you look at the lower portion of the photograph, again, the combustion chamber in more detail here, you'll see not only does it have 2 valves, which is a limiting factor in itself, I suppose, with respect to making power, but you can see the 2 ports that are, 2 ports that are drilled and tapped for 2 spark plugs. I guess they were trying absolutely every trick in the book to try and squeeze a bit more power out of this thing. And it had 2 plugs similar to a piston-powered aircraft, right, with two plugs per cylinder. Now that's done from a reliability standpoint, from the most part, with respect to the aircraft engines. I suspect the dual plugs in the Ranger were to try and get a wee bit more power out of it. It was a waste spark system. So in spite of the fact it was a 4-cylinder engine, it had 8 plugs. A waste spark system meant that you had to change the plugs at half the normal service interval. So you had to change the plugs on a regular basis for this little vehicle, and there was 8 of them to change in spite of the fact it was a 4-cylinder vehicle. So yeah, it was a great little truck. Some interesting engineering choices, shall we say. But yeah, I thought I'd just take a minute to show you this because it stuck in my mind. It's quite unique. I can't think of another vehicle with 2 plugs per cylinder in the automotive world. I'm sure they're out there, but I can't think of any offhand. Yeah, of course I could Google it, but yeah, I just can't think of anything offhand. I also wonder if perhaps a 2 plug per cylinder arrangement is advantageous from an emission standpoint. I think that's a possibility. I'm no certain about that, guys, but I guess it's potentially one of the reasons that it would have 2 plugs per cylinder. That's it, boys. Cheers.